Hello fellow hikers, in this video I'll tell you my grand story of perilous adventure while hiking the mountains Sniktau and Cupid. Once upon a time in the Front Range city of Colorado Springs lived a boy growing antsy at the anticipation of the start of hiking season. After a full winter inside, cowering from his arch nemesis, the snow, he was ready to get back out on the trails. However, this sedimentary season was particularly hard on him. Not only had he lost a few ranks in his fitness stat block like usual, he had also gained an injured condition in November. And just to make sure the injury was legit, he re-injured the same ankle in December and had to buy a boot that wasn't found on any top 10 hiking shoes list. Despite keeping up physical therapy regimens such as dashing through long airport terminals for holiday travel and complaining loudly when shuffling towards the fridge, the boy wasn't sure if his ankle was ready for any serious hikes. Thus, 2020's hiking season started off slow with relatively flat hikes in nearby parks such as Palmer Park and Red Rocks Open Space. With tender tendons, he worked his way up to the local favorites Red Mountain and Blodgett Peak. Then, as true tests, the boy attempted Raspberry and Herman, and then Mount Rosa with much success, though his ankle and knee did grumble a time or two. With cautious confidence, the boy felt ready to tackle some real elevation at 13,000 feet, and dreamed to take a trip to those windy ridges. First, with any hiking trip, I suggest you do your research and plan it out. Or just have an annoying friend like me in your group text that does it all for you. If you, like me, also want to avoid the evil supervillain, the snow, it is best to check trip reports and peak conditions. The status of Sniktau and Grizzly Peak D looked favorable. I love reading multiple reports about people hiking without traction gear with small, manageable snow patches, though I did take note of this larger one after the summit of Cupid. Sniktau peaks at 13,234 feet and is ranked 448th in Colorado. Trivia treat, it is named after the pen name of Edwin H. N. Patterson, a pioneer journalist and editor that had moved to the area. It is most likely a reversal of his fellow journalist W. F. Watkins, though Patterson claimed to have been given the name from Native Americans. I found two references to its supposed meaning. One sounds badass, and the other, well, not so much. Grizzly Peak D. Yes, the D is necessary because it suffers the same bland naming convention as Green Mountain and Red Mountain, because humans are great at naming things. Anyway, it stands at 13,427 feet and is ranked 302nd in Colorado. Even though there is already a saved route to both mountains in all trails, I still like to create my own in CalTopo. I broke up the hike into 3 sections: the blue ascent up to the ridge, the purple traverse over to Sniktau, and the green traverse to Grizzly Peak D. The Tony that had planned the trip had some wild aspirations of possibly heading the 1.5 more miles over to the 14er Torreys, but that would have been a steep 1,650 feet of gain in just a mile. An astute viewer would notice by the title of this video that the Tony that hiked this trip did not even make it up Grizzly, but more on that later. Here's another trivia treat. Grazing Torreys translate into English as the Anthills from Arapaho. Anyway, the trailhead for this trip is located on the Loveland Pass, which is about an hour west of Denver, and just over a 2-hour drive from the springs. It's a fun drive just by itself because it is the highest paved mountain pass in Colorado. If you are lucky enough to get a parking spot in the main lot, you start at just under 12,000 feet. We got there a smidge before 8 a.m. and though there were some extra legal parking spots along the road, we decided to park at the lower lot. It's a quarter-mile hike along the road to get to the trailhead proper. Also, you can pretty much see the trail all the way up the ridge and mostly over to Sniktau. After a steep but straightforward 900 feet of gain in just less than a mile, you'll find yourself on the ridge and catch some good views of the anthills, grays, and torties. You'll also catch those high winds that everyone talks about in the trip report, so be sure to bring the proper gear to keep warm and duck behind these shelters if need be. When you're all geared up for the wind, head out the 0.9 miles over to Sniktau, even though it is hiding behind this false summit now. You might complain a bit, but you'll get over it. And you'll be on your way up to the summit of Sniktau in no time. Here's the 360 from up there, giving you views of the ski lifts up Mount Trailhead, Mount Parnassus, and Kelso. Looking at Grizzly Peak D from here, the route over Cupid doesn't look too bad. Even the ridgeline over to the 14er Tories looks nicer than I thought it would. After some great pictures and snacks, make your way back to the junction and then start heading up Cupid. It was when we crested over Cupid, where nothing but Grizzly was loomed before me, that I really began to study it. It was starting to look steeper than the Tony that planned the hike had imagined. How steep was that grade? It's not too bad, right? He couldn't remember. Perhaps since I was distracted with my thoughts, I missed the turn off the heavy snow-covered trail. I bouldered over the rock outcropping just after Cupid and ended up way above the trail. I did an easy scramble to get back down to it. However, my friends backtracked in order to glide down the snow, since that was better for the dog. After that minor setback, there was nothing but Grizzly to contend with. And, well, my thoughts. Maybe it's not that steep after all? After this snow-covered ascent and getting over this hump, I can get a better look at it. Oh, yeah, that's pretty steep actually. At that point in the hike, it was just about noon, so we had been hiking for 4 hours. I had planned to be on top of Grizzly by then, but I had failed to account for the 600 feet of gain in just a quarter of a mile. We figured it would take 45 minutes to get up and probably another 45 down. We were about 90 minutes from the car, and that was more tempting than claiming Grizzly Peak D. Plus the clouds had been forming and breaking all day, and we'd been constantly worried about them since summiting Cupid. They didn't look that great as we stood on that precipice weighing our options. It was a lot of little things that added up to the decision not to go. We should have gotten to the trailhead sooner to claim a better parking spot. We wasted some time crossing the heavy snowfield. It was our first time this year at that elevation, so we were moving slower than we thought. My knee and ankle were feeling all that rolling elevation. And we didn't want to chance the weather. And even though the clouds broke favorably as we were heading back, we felt like we made the correct decision to turn back for the car. You need to be careful above treeline like that, especially when you are on a ridge with lots of elevation fluctuation. Plus, we could always get Grizzly another time by going straight for it and maybe possibly Tories on a nicer day. There's a shortcut trail that would accommodate that approach, and that's marked with a cairn. Another cairn marks the junction off the main trail, and then it's just an easy downhill back to the car. Overall, it was a great trip and I'm happy we went. Sniktau is a popular 13er being accessible right off the Loveland Pass and close to the Continental Divide. I'm not sure what 2020's hiking season will mean for me, but it's feeling promising. Until next time, hike safe, my friends.